yote kanairo yote.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nilikuachia hii kazi ukaanza kuichezea.
Can we talk privately? What's wrong? Somebody's dead. I know, people die.
Jua hii damu itakuwa kwa mikono yetu.
Wacha waende wamtupe huko kwa bahari.
Morning, madam.
Biblia inasema an eye for an eye. Hakuna mtu atajua amekufa.
Who is dead?
It is the first day of April 2025. Many call it April Fools. Good morning and a warm welcome to KBC News Check. And for the next 2 hours or so, we will be looking at the President 5-day working tour of the Mount Kenya region. I'll be telling you all about where we are expecting him to be, but a very quick one is that we are expecting him today in Rumuruti, Laikipia West constituency, later on in Nanyuki, Laikipia East constituency, and Narumoru in Kieni constituency. We will be looking at some of the development that he is supposed to commission, various projects that he is supposed to commission, and also new markets and also the housing agenda. We'll be looking at that plus much more, and all the politics that surrounds it. And for the next 1 hour or so, we will be having analysts who will be quite objective in regards to that. And talking about objective is because all the politics that surround the president's tour. My name is Njue. Anwangesh is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Remember, we are live on all social media spaces. And before we delve into that live conversation, remember the IEBC commissioners interview continue at the Kenya College of Insurance in South Sea. And let's first of all have a sneak peek of what is going on, and we'll be back with this live discussion.
Key position at IEBC. In that position, did you engage in how do you say, continuous training programs for your staff? I'm thinking along your training of the bridge curriculum, which is a key aspect of what Kriegler Commission recommended. And therefore, in that position as the Director of Operations, how many of your colleagues in the Secretariat did you facilitate to undergo the same training that you went through?
Yeah, thanks very much. Through the chair, I may not have the number cogently in terms of whether it was 50 or 100, but it's quite a number of staff underwent the bridge curriculum training, as far as I recollect.
My question is, you facilitated, you are in charge of operations.
Yes.
That is yourself now facilitating the training.
Right. Yes.
Okay, very good. One of the other thing you have mentioned that you will do, and I'm really very impressed with your training in terms of being an advocate, mediator, CPS, and so on. The area of electoral integrity is a big issue for Kenya, and it has always been since the promulgation of 2010 Constitution. In your own experience, what are the key gaps that you find? You know, the electoral integrity deficit, those gaps, the dark gaps. And now, if you are successful to be a member of the commission, how will you plug those gaps? What are those gaps, and how will you plug those gaps of electoral integrity?
Okay. Sorry, through the chair, if I may just go back to the issue of bridge for 1 second. That indeed one of the trainings was actually, I recollect, was done, I facilitated a training that was done here at home at the Great Rift Valley Lodge, where we had a lot of staff members actually at senior management level and even from the field operations. So that facilitation was done in 2017, just before the general election. And with regards to the issue of integrity, I just wish to say that the background to this issue of integrity is a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of mistrust when it comes to the way elections are conducted. Actually, all the way from the polling station, voter education is done, people go and poll, but when it comes to the result transmission element, something happens at that point. And what would I do differently is to really then, when I join IEBC as a commissioner, is to sit with colleagues and together with the chairperson and really put bare what is this that brings transmission issues to a lot of mistrust, and how can we address them? For example, if the issue of mistrust is the server, because many times you hear people talking about this server, is to demystify the server, because the server is just a central computer where either results are coming through, or if it's maybe something to do with communication, files are coming through, and therefore you can access. So it's to ensure that the issue of transmission is made, for example, real time, people can access it. And if it's the servers, I know the Supreme Court actually restricted access to the staff of the IEBC, but there is the way political parties and other stakeholders can access the read-only mode and be able to follow through how the tabulation of the results is coming through. And it's also to have...
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank
just
you.
one more.
No,
Maybe to have pre-election...
My time is
All right.
up.
Sorry.
Thank you,
All right.
Ms. Sungura. Thank you, Chair.
Madam Betty, you seemed to blame Kenyans for the integrity problems in IEBC conduct of elections.
May I respond?
Yes.
No, Chairman, I'm not blaming Kenyans.
Because you said mistrust
Yes.
as the reason for a lack of integrity.
No, yes, there is an issue of mistrust, which then brings in the question around the integrity of the elections. So people do not trust that the verification was done right, or they do not trust that the transmission, what they polled at the polling station, is exactly what is being tabulated. And therefore, that is what I intended to explain, Mr. Chairman.
FCPA, Njue, please.
Thank you, Chair. And Madam Betty, you told us your last call of duty was where? NGEC.
Yes, Chairman.
Your CEO number at number what at NGEC?
Number 2, they had recruited the first one, Professor Thiambo, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
Then
so you are number
second,
2.
Number 2.
Okay, I wanted to confirm.
Yes.
I believe you are aware the circumstances under which the first CEO left Ngek, if I may, though you say you don't like it, but that is what we know it outside here. Yeah, I believe you know. So you served for how long at NGEC?
My 5-year term, my full contract term.
Okay.
Yes.
You didn't seek a renewal?
I did not seek a renewal.
Any reasons?
No reason. I just opted to move on.
It wasn't renewable?
It was renewable, and it's optional. Either they can renew or you can seek a renewal. I actually opted to not seek a renewal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what was, what's, can I say, your strategies, or how did you survive the full term, unlike your predecessor, in as far as governance of constitutional commissions are concerned?
Yeah, well, I think I'll speak to what I did. Thank you very much for the question. Was basically to stick to the law, adherence to the rule of law, working also closely with the commissioners, implementing the decisions of the commission, working closely with the secretariat, And because I know financial management, matters of IFMIS, matters of accountability when it comes to public funds are very, very sensitive. And we owe our duty to the public in terms of how do we then spend the resources that we're given by the government of Kenya. It was very important for us to have a very streamlined and very, very obedient to the law, if I may put it so, kind of working modality in terms of...
You'll be transitioning from being the secretary or having held the position of secretary to the commission or the CEO. Now you'll be wearing the hat of a commissioner at IEBC if you're successful. So how will you complement that new role of commissioner using your experience at NGEC?
If I use the experience I've held in NGEC is to work closely with both the commissioners and the chairman and also with the staff. It's almost like a loop, you know, you work and you correlate. There is no, yes, there is defined roles and duties for each of us, but there's a way we have joint planning sessions, for instance. If there are decisions for the secretary to execute, that they are clear for them coming from the commission end for them to execute. And I think as well as just ensuring that I now wear the new hat of a policy maker, I hold up to my ethical leadership and ensure that I can then give directions to the staff in terms of strategic policy oversight. So I have sat with the commissioners, not only in IEBC, but also, not only in NGC. I think I really want to join IEBC. I keep saying IEBC when I meant to say NGC. But because I have sat with the chairman and commissioners and I've been able to gain the experience of how decisions are made, how policy is crafted, how all these strategies are set up, including policies as well, like I said. So it will be easy for me. I've been an executor and now I'll be an oversight and policy maker. I've had that orientation, so it's not going to be anything very new for me. I've learned, I would say, from the best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen in your documents, and even you mentioned to us that you are the commission secretary. That's true of NGEC?
Yes, yes.
And even at IEBC. Where is that position of commission secretary? Where is it provided for? In the Constitution or even in NGEC Act or IEBC Act?
Yeah, the position is provided for in the NGC Act.
Commission secretary.
Commission secretary, yes.
Vis-a-vis secretary to the commission. The Constitution says there shall be a secretary to the commission.
Right.
But you've said you are the commission secretary. Are they one and the same? And if so, why did the Constitution and the Act talk of secretary to the commission and not commission secretary?
Yes, I think I will differentiate the two. The secretary to the commission is a role where you sit with the commission and execute the decisions, or rather the instructions that come from their plenary sittings. You also take minutes. You actually serve. You are a bridge between the commission and the staff, and therefore you hold an accountability and leadership role by so doing. So the Constitution, in the way it has drafted it, is to basically bestow on the office holder the issue of not only responsibility but also accountability, because it goes ahead again to speak to the issue of being an accounting officer in the enabling statutes that follow in the PFMA Act.
So does that change the position?
It doesn't change
because the Constitution says secretary to the commission, which you've actually described the role of a secretary to the commission.
Yeah.
But now I've seen all secretaries of the commissions have actually converted it, and they are calling themselves commission secretary, a position that is not there in the Constitution. It is not there in their enabling legislation. Yeah, and actually that partly contributes to the conflict between the CEOs and the commissioners and the chairperson of the commission, or the secretariat for that matter, vis-a-vis the role of commissioners and the chairperson. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I would say that in parlance, in terms of administratively handling that role, you find there is the way it's described: commission chairperson, commission secretary. So you find it's the way it has been described out of its administrative function that it carries. But indeed, I do agree with you about the phraseology in the Constitution. When they even put out advertisements, it's commission secretary. My letter of appointment says commission secretary. So I do see that. And in terms of the conflict, I wouldn't quite say that that is the reason why there's a conflict between commission secretary and the chairperson. I served as a commission.
But you see, the way you've described it, that it is called commission chairperson, meaning is overall, then you're commission secretary. So you're actually giving yourself powers almost the same to that of the chairperson, because you're uplifting yourself to that status that you're almost at par with the commission chairperson, only that yours is commission secretary, the other one is commission chairperson. But the Constitution says secretary to the commission. Thank you, Chair. And I wish you all the best.
Sorry, Chair, if you may just allow me to say something there, because it's a role I have held, and it's the way it's, I mean, the conversation we are having here in this dialogue, it's that it's something perhaps that may be addressed going forward. But in many circumstances, I haven't seen a conflict arising as a result of that nomenclature.
Thank you. I want to ask Mr. Evans Misati to ask you some questions.
Thank you.
That has been Miss Betty Sungura being taken through her interview steps during the interview session at the Kenya College of Insurance. But I'm informed that the president is in Laikipia East, Laikipia East in Ngarachi secondary or primary school. And of course, we are expecting that. How does the president itinerary look like? Let's take a look. We're expecting him in Muruti, Laikipia West constituency. Later on, he will be in Nanyuki, that is in Laikipia East constituency, and later on in Narumoro constituency. That's just to mention, but we do expect the president in Embu to inspect Kiambere bulk water project that is in Mbere South. And after that, we do expect the president also to inspect the construction of the county aggregation and industrial park that will be in Laikipia West. A busy schedule. Remember, he will be in the Mount Kenya region for the next 5 days. And we also have our reporter, Abdiaziz Hashim, who will be keeping tabs with exactly what will be happening. Later on, the president is expected to issue title deeds in Kieni, that is Njue County, together with the launch of the last mile electricity connectivity in the same county. In Murang'a County, we do expect the president to inspect the ongoing water sanitation and also sewerage programs in Maragua. That is in Murang'a County. A busy schedule indeed. Moving on, the president, we expect him in Nyandarua County to inspect the incomplete JM Memorial Hospital in Ol Kalau. That is in Nyandarua. In Kiambu, he will inspect a section of the Mau Mau Road that is under construction in Lari. That is a few kilometers from the capital CBD. As I mentioned, later on in Embu, you expect Kiambere bulk water project in Mbere South. But as I'm informed right now is that he is in Laikipia County. I don't know whether we have those pictures. All right, I'm informed that we will get that live feed in a short while, but just in case you joined us, this is KBC News Check. We will be looking at the President's 5-day working tour of the Mount Kenya region. Among what I've mentioned is that the inspection and also commissioning of projects are right there. And also I have panelists here in studio who will help out to give an objective view. Remember, it is the President's duty. The President is the symbol of national unity. Of course, that ship has been dogged by a lot of politics, but we will be putting all that into perspective. Allow me now to rope in my panel of experts, beginning from my immediate left. We have Oscar Omondi, who is a political analyst and also a university don. Welcome, Oscar.
Thank you very much, Troy, for having me, and good morning, our viewers.
Just next to him, we have Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan. Dr. Isaac Hassan is a governance and leadership expert. Karibu sana, Dr.
Thank you very much, Troy.
Gentlemen, as we wait for the president in Laikipia, Isaac, maybe we can just, touch on the IEBC interviews that are currently underway. I've checked, and they will be completed on the 24th of April. They have a lot of ground to cover.
Thank you very much once again. I think we have looked at the interview process that has been going on from day one when they initiated the first candidate to be interviewed for chair position. And until now, commissioner's interview is still going on. By the way, it is important to note that there are more than 100 candidates who have been shortlisted for commissioner's positions. There are three issues I would like to just highlight. It is important for Kenyans to understand that all Kenyans who have been shortlisted for the respective positions, be it the chair or commissioner, are qualified for those positions. Interviews are not examinations. Interviews are a process in which one gets to know each other in order to see what value will individual bring to the institution that is being interviewed for. And therefore, we know very well there are those who can articulate their position and of course impress the panelists. There are those ones who have a bit of laxity and a bit of challenge in expressing themselves. That does not necessarily mean they are not capable of doing their work. Having said that, in my previous discussion, I pointed out some few standards that the Commission has missed out in the process. One, there are standards set for interview processes, meaning that when someone needs to be interviewed for one position, every candidate is subjected to the same questions. Unlike currently what we are seeing, candidates are being tested on different questions. Therefore, the principle of assessing and grading will be biased in that if I am subjected to one question and I answer that question, and similarly you are subjected to the same question and you answer differently to the best of your ability, you are able to measure my capability in terms of whether I'm able to, whether I have convinced you in ensuring that I have clearly articulated the question before me. But now, there are several questions which have been asked differently. Number two, I tend to think the live coverage is a bit biased because there are people who have already understood how these questions are formulated. And therefore, they are much well placed than the first candidates who have never had any clue on how those sets of questions will be administered. And therefore, meaning then there's biasness in terms of subjecting someone to the interview.
But Kenyans would argue that it's better that Kenyans are seeing exactly the interview process.
It is better for them to see, but it is better to follow as well, more better actually, to follow the standard, international standard, in that it will be biased for an individual. This, remember, we are trying to assess someone who will going to perform duties based on the position that he has been linked to. So, meaning then, what will have happened is that if I will have advised, if at all my advice will hold any basis, is that they will have done the interviews completely off air, then release those interviews for Kenyans to view later, because these are all recorded.
Just hold the thought. I'm informed by my director that the president is currently having a discussion and also a rally at Ngarachi Comprehensive School. Let's first of all listen in to the president and then come back to this discussion.
Mjumbe wenu ni mtu wa bidii. Sasa namwambia Bwana Mariro ambaye ni PS wangu wa mambo ya usalama ama ya defense. Sindio? Hiyo kazi nimempatia. Sasa hiyo shule imebaki. Shule ya hapa Laikipia West, shule ya kule Laikipia North, shule ya hapa Baringo. Wewe ushughulike nayo, mimi nitakuongezea pesa ndio tuweze kujenga mashule yote, wananchi wa hapa watoto wao wasome. Tunaelewana jameni? Kwa sasa tumetumia karibu shilingi milioni 200 kujenga haya mashule karibu 9. Tutaongeza pesa ingine kwa sababu ni ya muhimu. Kila mtoto wa Kenya apate nafasi ya kusoma. Ni muhimu kila Mkenya mahali alipo kuwe na amani, ndio tuweze kushiriki katika ujenzi wa taifa, Kenya iweze kusonga mbele. Watu wa Laikipia, mimi nawashukuru sana kwa sababu nyinyi ni wakulima sugu. Nyinyi mnafanya bidii. Nilisimama hapa nikawaambia tutawapunguzia gharama ya mbolea. Ile kalama ilikuwa inauzwa shilingi 6,000 7,000, sasa tumeteremsha, imekuja chini 2,500, na mimi nataka nimwambie governor apange vile tutahakikisha kwamba sio fertilizer ipatikane Nyahururu peke yake. Lazima ikuje hapa Sipili, lazima ikuje hapa Kinamba, lazima tutafute store ingine karibu na nyinyi hapa, hata kama Muhotetu, ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba hamusafiri kwenda mbali ati kwenda kutafuta mbolea. Ama ni aje watu wa Laikipia? Tumekubaliana? Ya tatu, mimi niliwaambia pia ili tuhakikisha kwamba watoto wetu wanasoma, pia lazima tuajiri walimu zaidi. Kwa miaka miwili tumeajiri walimu 76,000. Na kwa sababu sehemu hii ilipata matatizo, walimu wengi wakatoroka. Sasa nimeambia watu wa TSC wafanye affirmative action, ndio walimu zaidi wapatikane katika mashule yenu hapa, kwa sababu wale walitoroka kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa usalama, pia tuwa replace na tuwaongezee wengine, ndio watoto wenu wapate nafasi ya kusoma kama watoto wengine wa taifa letu la Kenya. Jambo la tatu, tulikubaliana na nyinyi mambo ya barabara. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Nyinyi mnajua katika hiyo awamu ingine tulikuja tukaanzisha barabara kutoka Rumuruti kuja Sipili kwenda Kinamba. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Si tulijenga hiyo barabara tukamaliza katika awamu hiyo ingine? Pia tukaunganisha kutoka Sipili tukalete hapa Muhotetu, tukapeleka Karandi. Saa hii inakaribia, imefika, inaelekea Baringo, tunataka tuifikishe mpaka Marigat. Imekwama kidogo pale mbele, lakini imekwama kwa sababu contractor ametusumbua, na tunabadilisha huyo contractor, tunaleta mwingine. Si kweli ama si kweli? Lakini huyu karani amekuja tena akaniambia mumemtuma ati barabara itoke Kinamba iende Mwenje iende mpaka Matweku. Ni nyinyi mlimtuma ama ni kunipanga? Amekuja kunipanga. Nyinyi ndio mlimtuma ati barabara itoke Kinamba iende Mwenje mpaka Matweku. Pia akaniambia ingine ati tena nitoe barabara pale Muhotetu nipeleke Kaiti, nipeleke Kundarima, Kundarira, nitoe Kundarira nipeleke mpaka Njevi. Nyinyi mlimtuma ama kunipanga? Ananipanga huyu mtu. Nyinyi ndio mlimtuma? Bas, nataka munisikize kwa makini. Hiyo barabara yenu mbili, hiyo ya kutoka pale Kinamba mpaka ifike Matweku kupitia pale Mwenje, hiyo barabara tayari tumetangaza, tumeweka kandarasi. Nimeambia wizara ya kwamba waanzishe hiyo barabara. Mimi nataka nirudi hapa baadaye mwaka huu nikuje ni inspect hiyo barabara ikiwa inajengwa. Vile vile ile ya kutoka Muhotetu Kaiti kwenda Kundarira mpaka kule Njevi, hiyo pia tuli advertise Januari. Sasa inafanyiwa valuation, tutahakikisha kwamba inajenga. Nitarudi hapa kuja kufanya inspection wakati inaendelea. Mnasema tuendelee ama tuendelee? Tuendelee ama tuendelee? Ya mwisho, mimi nimekuja hapa maneno ya stima, kwa sababu mlinieleza ya kwamba hamutaki kuishi kwa giza. Giza iko na matatizo mingi, shetani anashughulika ndani ya giza. Na ili shetani atoke tuweke mwangaza. Ama mnasemaje watu wa tuweke mwangaza. Na leo mimi nimekuja kuanzisha hapa mpango mkubwa wa Laikipia County. Nimeketi chini na viongozi wenu wote. Bwana Washira hapa, Mheshimiwa Keonjori pande ile, Mama Sara pande ile, tumekubaliana ya kwamba tunawapatia milioni 720 ya kuunganisha stima kwa watu 4,000 wapya hapa Laikipia. Na nimeambia pia huyu waziri wangu, Bwana Opiyo Wandayi yuko hapa, waziri wa mambo ya stima. Nimemwambia pia waongeze shilingi milioni 400 katika program hiyo ingine. Tuongeze watu kutoka 4,000 mpaka watu 9,000 ambao watapatiwa stima. Na huyu Opiyo Wandayi na PS wake Bwana Alex Washira tumekubaliana na wao, hii Laikipia haiwezi kuwachwa nyuma wakati tunapanga mambo ya stima katika taifa letu la Kenya. Na hiyo ndio mradi tumekuja kuanzisha hapa. Leo tunaenda kwa kijiji ya Monyo hapa. Tunaenda kuwaunganishia stima. Na ile kijiji kingine inaitwa Kiambogo. Hiyo kijiji pia tunaenda huko leo, tunaanza kupangia mnyinyi mambo ya stima wakati tunasambaza ile ingine yote ya hapa Laikipia County. So ndugu zangu watu wa Laikipia, kazi zingine nyingi. Mukiona gazeti ya leo hapa Laikipia West, gazeti ya leo tumetangaza kandarasi ya kuwajengea soko hapa Sipili ya milioni 50 pale Kinamba. Vile katika gazeti ya leo tumewatangazia soko ya milioni 50 pale Kinamba. Pale Rumuruti vile tunawajengea soko Rumuruti ya milioni 350. Hapa Nyahururu, town yenu ya Nyahururu, saa hizi tunajenga nyumba 1,000 ya affordable housing. Hiyo kazi inaendelea nikiongea na nyinyi. Lakini vile tutawajengea soko ingine kubwa ya milioni 350 hapa Nyahururu. Tuhakikishe ya kwamba wakati Kenya inapiga hatua ya kwenda mbele, hatutaki hapa Laikipia West ama Laikipia nzima ibaki nyuma, tusonge mbele kama wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya. Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie watu wa hapa Laikipia, tunaelewana? Unajua mimi kwa miaka 2 nimekuwa nikipanga mambo, kwa sababu nilikuta uchumi iko na matatizo. Nikasema mbali ya kupanga mambo mengine nilainishe mambo ya uchumi. Sasa uchumi iko sambamba, iko chonjo. Sasa ile kazi imebaki ni mimi kuja kumalizia nyinyi mambo ya barabara, tumalize stima, niwajengee soko, niwajengee affordable housing, nisomeshe watoto wenu hapa na tuwapatie mambo ya matibabu, Kenya iweze kusonga mbele. Nyinyi watu wa Laikipia mnasema kazi iendelee ama mnataka tuletewe fitina ya upuzi? Nasema tuendelee na kazi. Wale wanasema tuendelee na kazi nione kwa mkono, wala wanasema tuendelee na kazi. Tunaelewana? Tuko pamoja jameni? Laikipia tumekubaliana. Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie ya kwamba hii Laikipia, mimi nikiwa rais wa Kenya, haiwezi kubaki nyuma. Mimi nitahakikisha ya kwamba wakati Kenya inapiga hatua ya kwenda mbele, Laikipia iko katikati ya hiyo mpango ya kupeleka taifa letu la Kenya mbele. Na mtu asiwadanganye na siasa ya pesa 8 kusema ati sehemu hii itawachwa nyuma. Hiyo ni upuzi, hiyo ni ujinga. Mimi nawaambia Kenya itasonga mbele, Laikipia ikiwa katikati ya kupeleka taifa letu la Kenya. Laikipia hoye! Laikipia hoye! Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie watu wa Laikipia, mimi nikiwa kiongozi wa taifa hii, nimesema ya kwamba tutaunganisha taifa letu la Kenya. Kila jamii, kila sehemu, kila county, kila dini tutaunganisha, kwa sababu umoja ni nguvu, kutengana ni udhaifu. Tunaelewana? Na hii serikali mlinipatia nafasi ya kuunda hii serikali, inatutosha sisi wote. Sio lazima mmoja aondoke ndio mwingine apate nafasi, hapana. Sisi wote tunateshea ndani ya hii serikali, kwa sababu hii ni serikali ya Kenya na kila mmoja wetu ni Mkenya. Kila mmoja wetu analipa ushuru. And I want to give you my confirmation and I want to give you my assurance that no community is going to be left behind. No region is going to be left behind. No religion is going to be left behind. We are going to move together as one united, prosperous nation called Kenya. Na sisi wote tutatembea pamoja safari hiyo. Ndugu zangu watu wa Laikipia, mnasema tuungane ama tutengane jameni? Mnasema niunganishe Kenya hii? Mnasema niunganishe Kenya? Wale wanasema niunganishe hii Kenya iwe moja, nione kwa mkono. Basi mimi sitaki kusema kuzidi hapo. Najua bado tuko na kazi nyingine nyingi ambayo mnataka tufanye hapa. Si ndio? Muliniuliza mkiwa watu wa Laikipia, nisomeshe watoto, nipange vizuri mambo ya CBC ikuwe na taratibu ya sawasawa. Hiyo kazi nimefanya, nimehakikisha kwamba tumeajiri walimu zaidi, nimehakikisha ya kwamba tunajenga mashule vile mnavyoona, na tunataka kuhakikisha kwamba hakuna mtoto wa Kenya hata kama mzazi wake hana uwezo anawachwa nyuma. Sisi wote tutembee kwa pamoja. Muliniambia nipange mambo ya kilimo. Munataka kilimo iwapatie pesa na pia ituzalishie chakula. Tukiongea saa hizi kilimo ya mahindi iko sawa sawa. Kilimo ya chai tumepata bilioni 215 mwaka uliopita kwa mambo ya chai. Mambo ya kahawa bei yake imesonga mbele. Kutoka shilingi 50 kwa kilo, sasa tuko shilingi 110 kuelekea 120 kwa kilo moja. Mambo ya maziwa tulisema hivyo hivyo. Kwa hivyo kilimo tumedhibiti sawa sawa, and I want to give you assurance Kenya is going to move forward. Watu wa Laikipia tumekubaliana jameni? Tumekubaliana? Si nyinyi mmetupatia kazi? Si kila mtu afanye kazi? Si 2027 nyinyi ndio mtaamua? Yule mtu amefanya kazi si mtampatia ile inatoshana na yeye? Yule mtu atafanya kazi, hajafanya kazi si mtampeleka nyumbani? Hakuna haja ya kusumbuana saa hizi. Kila mtu afanye kazi yake. MCA afanye yake, mjumbe afanye yake, governor afanye yake, mama county afanye, mimi nitafanya yangu. Wenye kuamua na walimu wa kusahihisha maneno ni nyinyi. Mtu ambaye hatakuwa amefanya kazi mumpeleke nyumbani. Ama namna gani jameni? Hata hawa wananisumbua na makelele hawa. Mimi nataka niwaambie nyinyi mnaosumbuka na mimi, mfanye mambo mawili. Kwanza, kama mnataka kushindana na mimi, kwendeni tafuta sera. Mwambie hawa wananchi kilimo mtafanya nini? Barabara mtafanya nini? Sitima mtafanya nini? Matibabu mtafanya nini? Bure mtazunguka hapo alafu mambo yenu itazama. Ama kama sivyo, si namna hiyo? Sasa hawa watu wajipange vizuri. Mwacheni makelele ya bure. Hawa wananchi si wajinga, watajua ni nani wa kufanya kazi, ni nani wa porojo na fitina na ukora. Kwa hivyo tuendelee namna hiyo. Wacha nisiseme kuzidi hapo. Niko hapa na naibu wangu ambaye alishughulika na mambo haya ya usalama. Anaitwa Professor Kidure Kindiki.
The head of state live at Ngarachi Comprehensive School. They are addressing residents of Laikipia County, and his clarion call has been no one will be left behind in terms of development, and said that if his opponents want to meet him in the competition, they should first of all spell out their development agenda. And he has also mentioned that he will be adding more schools, also fertilizer distribution will be scaled up to ensure that all the residents get their fertilizer. 720 million for 4,000 new customers in the last mile connectivity project, and additional 400 to hit that number to 9,000. And also he's talked about markets in Kinamba, Rumuruti and Nyahururu, not to forget 1,000 affordable housing units in Nyahururu. We'll be getting more in regards to that. Just in case you joined us, this is KBC News Check. We are keeping tabs with the President's 5-day tour of about 9 counties in the Mount Kenya region. And he has started out, has kicked off in Laikipia County. I'm not alone. I have 2 experts. We expected to be joined by more. I have Oscar Mondi, who is a political analyst and also a university don. And just next to him, we have Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is also a leadership and governance expert. Gentlemen, we are expecting Ishmael Nyaribo, who is a counsel, and also Dr. Churchill Saoke, who is a leadership and governance expert and also a university don. But gentlemen, you've listened to what the president has to offer, and especially to people in Laikipia. But first things first, he's talking about no one will be left behind. Just to underscore what I said when we were beginning, the president being a symbol of national unity, Oscar, and I'm looking at some of these goodies that he has outlined, and a very powerful word saying that no one will be left behind. His significance in the Mount Kenya region.
I think from what I heard from the president, I think after the Gen Z's trouble last year, the president decided to change tact on how he wants to do things. And he brought in the broad-based government. It is his prerogative, and I think whatever he's going to do, among the things that he's going to do with his main voting bloc, that was the Mount Kenya, is to inform them why he made that particular decision and justify his actions. And this is what he's doing. He's saying that we have to bring in everybody in government. And from yesterday, I watch even when he was hosting the local media stations and on live on air. But he was insisting that if bringing in other Kenyans who are taxpayers, and what he has repeated here, will make him become one-term president, so let it be. So he's trying to justify his action. And what happens is that whatever has been going on is mostly public opinion. And you know, governments make decisions and are influenced and guided by public opinion, for example. You know, the president and the mountain, and after the impeachment of the former deputy president, has been seen to be at loggerheads with the mountain. And now he's taken his time to go and face his accusers that I'm coming to you directly as the president of the nation. And give it to him. You know, President William Ruto is a very good orator, political orator. He has a gift of political orator. And he is good in it. And from whatever he's playing, he's trying to, I can see the welcome is good, which I didn't expect. I thought there would be shoutings. You know, we've heard this song, Ruto must go, all over in stadiums and what have you. So that was also being expected, that along the way it can be. But again, where he is now, this is Laikipia. You know, Laikipia is not at the center of the political bedrock of the mountain. You know, we have Githurai center in the roundabout, where a lot of political decisions are made based on the opinion of the people. But again, research confirms like this, that public opinion does not necessarily inform voter behavior. Public opinion is measured every day in a political circle. But the voter behavior is measured once after every 5 years. In some jurisdictions like the US, the voter behavior is measured after 4 years. But ours in Kenya, we measure the voter behavior once in every 5 years. If you collect a public opinion today about the existing government, for example, when the price of unga is 250 or 300 shillings, for example, when it should be like 100 because of probably drought or probably decisions that were made that made the price of essential commodities go up. If you collect the public opinion at that particular time, they will tell you we can't vote for you in this government again because of what they're going through at that particular time. If the same government makes that same price of unga and essential goods to come down to where it's supposed to be, and you collect a public opinion, the public opinion will change. So public opinion is measured every day, and it's always different. Whatever feeling that was there, for example, in Laikipia West, where the president in, when we sat with you here during the impeachment process, it was completely different from whatever we are seeing now, because people were emotional in Laikipia West and everywhere in the mountain about their guy being impeached, for example. But currently, how things have gone, it is subsidizing. So public opinion does not necessarily inform the voter behavior.
I totally understand, because you do remember all the 5 times that the Honorable Raila Odinga has vied.
Yes.
When it comes to opinion polls, he's always leading.
He's always leading in opinion polls.
I remember a newspaper in 2007, 2008 saying that Raila had the headline, Raila takes an early lead, but unfortunately that never happened.
Never happened.
Daktari, I'm looking at 6 months ago, that's the last time the president was at the mountain. And if you look at the social media and pundits, some have argued that he was going to receive a hostile welcome, you know, after impeaching the deputy and he's going to the same region. But from what we've seen that the people of Laikipia have rolled out the welcome mat.
Yeah.
What's the significance of the president's tour, and especially now that the Mount Kenya is bubbling, not with volcano, but with politics?
I think there are two things that we must always understand. One, our 2010 constitution demarcated clearly who governs where and what role each level of governance play. Precisely, the county government plays the governance role in day-to-day execution of services to the county they lead, and the national government takes the overall picture where they bring mega projects and mega development agendas. On that note, it's only a fool who does not benefit from the leadership of the day when you know very well if you push away the national government or the presidency, then you'll be left behind. And the president has echoed it very well. You know, politics aside, there are things that people always say. You may want to play politics, but if you know your political agenda does not benefit the people who you think are your followers, then you are a lost politician. And that is what has been going on air at all those times that people were talking about, oh, the president cannot go to the mountain region, or the president has the right to be anywhere in this country and is not influenced by any region or the decision of any community within their settlement area. This is a policy that must be executed, and the bottom line is that if you don't want to receive the president, then all those good things that the president currently is talking about cannot be executed by the county government. In that sense, then the local leaders will have been rated 0 at the end of their term if they were not able to pull the leadership of the national government to come and provide the necessary development within their area. Secondly, I think we elected, I know the things boiled from the fact that the former deputy president, impeached deputy president, was impeached. And people thought because the mountain voted in for President William Ruto, and of course in that arrangement, the deputy president also benefited from that. He was also voted in. Anything that happens to the deputy president will not be welcoming the president into their region. That is not true, simply because we have elected you, you couldn't do your job. Your failure should not translate to the system or the government of the day. You have failed to deliver. You will have been smarter other than fighting with your boss, so that your people benefit. So there are quite a number of things. But politically, what is the president doing? The president is actually boosting in political image, his political image and popularity within the area. And the essence is that he wanted to test the water, going against the myth where people were saying, oh, the mountain is gone, oh, the mountain does not welcome the presidency. Mountain is in Kenya. I always tell people, you know, sometimes people, we are told we are not Kenyans, as Somalis, people from Northern Frontier District, we are told we are not Kenyans. And I always tell people and challenge them, then can we carve Northern Kenya out of the rest of Kenya so that we become a country of our own? Because that way we are able to govern and lead our own things and make, utilize our own local resources. It's not that Northern Kenya has no resources, it's just because it is marginalized. Therefore, meaning then Kenya everywhere in this country is Kenya, so long as the boundaries have not been divided. The presidency has all the legitimate right to be in every corner of this country. And that is his actually role. And sometimes people think that when there is presidential approval rating within the circle of his visit, people might think that translates to, as the Don said, translate to voters voting for 2027. I don't think if the president is trying to campaign for 2027, he's trying to showcase in terms of the responsibility he has been given and deliver to the Kenyans who have given him that mantle. As soon as he completes his term, he will be having something to tell Kenyans that you gave me a 5-year term, this is what I did. On that note, or on that basis, can you guys give me another 5 more terms so that I complete my term? And that is a bargaining power. So presidential approval rating comes from that perspective. Of course, what the other thing he's doing is that he's strengthening and building relationship with the local leaders and the community themselves, because those are the real people who determine who becomes their national leader, who becomes their regional leader, and who becomes their extreme lower leadership within their wards. Therefore, I tend to think the steps that the president has taken now is a proof that the myths that people were, echoing all through is not true.
Yes, and Oscar, I think you wanted to add something in regards to that. And now that he is in the mountain, and we know very well the politics of the mountain have been bubbling, how can the president steer both politics and development agenda to a region that has been viewed to be more or less a little bit left out since the deputy was thrown out?
Yeah, this is personality. The question that I will pose to you was, though you were interviewing me, but the question I'll pose to you, have the Mount Kenyan voter made up his mind? The answer is no. Yes.
I can answer that. I was at home over the weekend, and where I come from, they're not quite happy about the government.
Yes.
And we have seen that from what we have seen in the politics. You do remember when Justin Muturi wanted to read a speech, for the president's speech. The people from my county refused that.
Yes.
And I asked someone in regards to how things are boiling up. And he said, yes, I'm not sure who I'm going to vote for, but I'm sure who I will not vote for, without mentioning names. So how can the president balance both the political and the development?
That means that...
Because as you have seen, Laikipia, let's be honest, have welcomed the president.
Yes.
Yeah.
That means that from whoever is voting, when we try to check or do analysis about elections, we have one strongholds and the people who oppose. Then in the middle, we have the undecided. So anytime any candidate goes to campaign, you want to win the hearts and minds of the undecided. But from your answer, from whoever you are discussing with politics in where you are, you realize that the Mount Kenyan voter is mostly undecided. And it will be very clear when we start discussing, when we have we have serious candidates who will be contented for 2027. And that is why the last time I came here, I told you that the Ruto must go clarion call. As it's spoken in March of 2025, it is unnecessary disruption for everything else. And now, the thing is, when they're still undecided, it is up for grabs. So it will be dependent when we do analysis, when Mount Kenya has identified candidates that will be going against President William Ruto. But at this particular time, it will be difficult. That is why the names are being propped up. For example, now the Kisii, and Kisii is a small voting bloc, but they already have 3 presidential candidates. We have Maraga, and we have Matiang'i, and we have Morara Kebaso. So you see, already some people are saying that Maraga could be a state, I don't know. But still, the thing is that when the voter has not decided, it's up for grabs. Number 2, what was Mount Kenya accusing the president of is being left behind. They felt lonely because of whatever President visits his supposed to, or mega or blah, blah, blah. And the talk of that place was a bit toxic. Like, don't be that like about. But now, when he goes to, for example, Laikipia, he talks about, you know, the defense PS comes from this region. And he has told me to do this and this and this and this. He's relating with the people. Number two, one thing I give to President William Ruto is knowledge of these places. You know, they talk about Garachi, Supili, Rumuruti, Kinamba. You know, he knows his, that's what I'm telling you, he's a good political orator. And he knows how to play political rhetoric that resonates with the people. You know, when you talk to people and tell them that this is so and so whom you sent. Number two, the road from this place and this place and this place. Again, I think the way he manages it for the next 5 days, you will see it. Yesterday, when I wanted to watch the president, somebody told me, I don't know what he's going to talk about. But I told him that I think he will handle these guys. But he did so well. The questioning was so difficult, but he tried his level best to justify his position, although it was very difficult. But I trusted that this is a political orator and will always know how to maneuver. And I think from my evaluation, he really tried to maneuver his case and put his case to the people, which I trust him on that. Probably the economy and things might not go well for President William Ruto, but for politics, I'll give you his super good
yes, and we'll be talking about the high cost of living, because I think a lot of Kenyans would want to hear about that. But Daktari, I'm looking at some vocal dissenting voices from the region. Actually, leaders, the MPs, we've seen even the governor, we've seen even the MCAs, some of them quite opposed to the president visiting the region, in as much as it is his constitutional right. They have mentioned some of the key areas that haven't been touched. They're talking about even the Mau Mau Road, there's some roads, the projects that we have here are the project that were initiated by the former president. How does this impact the president visit, and how can he, as Omondi says, is a master of crafting this, and is a good orator, how can he be able to manage this to quell the temperatures that are rising in the Mount Kenya region?
Njue, I think it is good to understand the demarcation between the president's visit and the politics on the ground.
But you'll not be able to stay away from them.
You know, politics has its place, and it's left for politicians. And of course, the president himself is a politician. And therefore, there's no way he will going to leave out politics as long as he's active in politics and he holds that office. But before I go to that point, there's a serious issue that I am even tempted to take Rigiji to court, because with the current global disaster of mental illness that is going on across the world, and everybody is battling with mental illness. As a professor of mental health, I think politicizing mental illnesses is not a good thing, because it affects people who are already battling with that. When he tweeted, and he even said in public that the president has a mental illness because he has an habitual liar, so he'll go and lie in the mountain area. He's going to lie to people. I think that is unprofessional, unethical, and it is unfortunate that mental illnesses are not addressed politically. And that's why we have the confidentiality aspect that builds the foundation of mental illness and its management. Therefore, when someone outrightly come out and say the president has mental illness because he lies to people often, I think that which he said, actually pathological liar, I think this guy has to be taken to court. And I'm actually tempted, for the right of those people who are battling with mental illness, I think it is time for us to say, stop mingling and joking with people's illness, because this is a reality. We are dealing with this on a daily basis. People are suffering. They shouldn't politicize that. That is one. Number two, I think, as earlier mentioned, you as a leader, what is it that you want for your people? beside your ego. Many of the leaders, political leaders, particularly those who came out and say they never wanted to welcome the president in the mountain region, they had their political ego. And ego does not take you anywhere. They did not look at the subject matter, which is the people who have elected them. And therefore, if you don't have the people who have elected you in your heart, and you can't sacrifice for them in order for them to gain a mileage on the development and their needs are addressed, then you are not a good leader, you cannot fit that position, and some Kenyans must think through that leaders who just want to satisfy their ego cannot lead this nation. And therefore, for those who are opposing to the president's leadership, for those who are opposing the president's visit, for those who are opposing to the project he's launching, I think they don't understand what they are doing. The other important thing that is important for them to understand is that in government budgeting and projects planning, it is not like an individual business where you just create your own plan and all of a sudden you execute it. Projects, government projects are put in pipeline where the projects are designed, and then once those projects are designed, regardless of whether the funding is available for that particular time or it will be available in near future, that plan is always there. So when the president goes and launch the projects which were initiated earlier on by the former president, meaning he's just doing his responsibility because those projects are already in the pipeline. And therefore, he is allocating fundings for those projects for them to be executed. And that's how government projects operate. You know, some people think that the president just stands here and say, we're going to construct this market and it will be constructed. No, there is what is called the master plan of the project for the country. Every constituency has the project that has been planned for. These projects are funded based on availability of fund. You cannot fund them at once or at one go. So if the president say, for example, we will construct this road between here and here, then he means that this should appear in the master plan, and then this has to be budgeted for by his team. That's why he goes with the ministers. And after that, then this allocation of budget will be made by the parliament and of course the executive, which will be leading the initial process of the budgeting process. And therefore, on that note, if he has allocated money and said this one will be done and will be completed this period, money has already been allocated. Therefore, it doesn't mean that he should initiate new projects from his side. No. That's how government works.
If I may inject in, you see, what question were you asked about leaders who are opposed or who see things differently from what the president is doing in the mountain? The leaders who are leading the rejection of the president in the mountain. You see, one thing that President William Ruto did, he made sure that when he discussed or when he went to the mountain, he talked to the people. For example, you know, the churches and the pastors of the mountain, some of them are still a darling of the president, and you know, the Gen Z movement today, some of them try to occupy churches when he goes there to offer these big offerings, which I know he will be able to go back to those churches and offer those, and he will be able to capture the church leadership of the mountain, number one. Number two, what he did, which still holds him tight to the mountain, he built his own leadership. For example, the young MPs that you find in Central, who actually participated in impeaching Gachagua, for example, the likes of Kimani Ichung'wah of today, Ndindi Nyoro was there, also a young leader from Central, and now the likes of Kindiki, who has been made the VP. These are people whom he actually helped to nurture from not where they were, the status that they occupy today. You know very well that before that, there were other leaders who were influential in this area, the likes of Moses Kuria, Wairia, Waititu, for example, Babayao, and Martha Karua, or Gidai. You see, he made sure that these guys are out of the system. So he has a group that he's able to control. When he goes there, he goes with a whole team of people who are in government, not from Central, not from Nyanza, not from Western, not from anywhere, from the same region. So doing away, holding these people, and government comes to a lot of things. For example, the leaders who were supporting Gachagua along during impeachment, most of them lost their positions in parliament. So, this one comes with the financial resources if you are in parliament, and it helps you in your campaigns. So if you lose chairmanship and now you have Gachagua here and William Ruto is coming with another crop of leadership who are supporting him, at the end of the day, when you get to the ballot, you'll be like, I don't have campaign money and I don't have all this. So it will be a disadvantage with time, because it was too early also. It is midterm in the election. And now you've lost the chairmanship, you've lost a lot of things. You have a lot of influence in government. And politics is about resources. Number one thing is about how do I access this resource to help me achieve 1 or 2, 3 things. So I think whatever the leadership that are opposed to him, with time, they will be able to see it is difficult to work with Honorable Gachagua. For example, Ruku, and Ruku is the guy who's been appointed CS. We used to sit with him here. Yeah. He's been appointed CS, public service. And now he was the only MP in DP. And DP also wrote to register political parties that they are willing to leave Kenya Kwanza. I know some of these things are a bit difficult. But so they've lost their only MP. They don't have an MP. So even if they move out of Kenya Kwanza, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's a good thing that you mentioned politics, because that is the next frontier that we are going to be looking at in the next hour, and the political alignment that are there currently in the Mount Kenya, and how this presidential visit may alter those. We'll be taking a quick break, but I will be right back. Remember, President is touring the 9 counties of the Mount Kenya region, and we are keeping tabs on exactly what happens and what the president has to offer. We'll be back in a moment.
Tasty breakfast just for you. Enjoy.
How special is this Dan of yours?
Niaje madhe, nilijua kuna something fishy na hapa.
Nini na mimi sijui?
Nikupin. Hizi mapepa zote, kanairo yote.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nilikuachia hii kazi ukaanza kuichezea.
Can we talk privately? What's wrong?
Somebody's dead.
I know, people died.
Jua hii damu itakuwa kwa mikono yetu.
Wacha waende wamtupe huko kwa bahari.
Morning, madam.
Biblia inasema an eye for an eye. Hakuna mtu atajua amekufa.
Who is dead?
Kenya is feeling the heat as water reserves shrink and taps run dry. The government has promised solutions: boreholes, dams, and improved infrastructure. But are these policies turning the tide on water scarcity and sanitation challenges? Join us this Tuesday at 9 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we wade into this conversation with the Principal Secretary for Water and Sanitation, Julius Korir. The Shift.
Wellness is important in our daily lives, so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have. By regular checkup, people don't know they have hypertension, they don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Welcome back to KBC News Check, when we are looking at the president's visit of 9 counties in the Mount Kenya region. And earlier on, we had a live feed from the Ngarachi in Laikipia County in regards to what the president had to say. And now, somebody else who is on the trail of President William Ruto is my colleague Abdi Aziz Hashim, who is, as you can see, is on your screen, and now joins us to give us the latest from Nanyuki. Good morning, Abdi. Kindly bring us up to speed with what is happening in Nanyuki.
Good morning to you too, indeed, Troy. We're coming to you live from the Nanyuki DEB school here, where the president any moment from now is expected to tour this particular region. Also, the president next to this particular institution will be visiting the Nanyuki modern market as well. You do know the president has been talking passionately about this particular issue, clearly stating yesterday in an interview with the radio presenters that 87 markets will be built within the Mount Kenya region, aside from the various road networks, including the major one, which is the Mau Mau Road, which is being carried out in various constituencies and in various counties that will connect the mountain region itself to boost the agricultural produce that is being given from this particular region, that is from the tea, the coffee and other sectors as well. Now, once the president will come here, he has just toured Laikipia West, where of course he talked vehemently about some of the insecurities that were witnessed in that particular area under the Operation Maliza Uhalifu, which has been very pertinent, especially from the security contingents that have been led by none other than the Kenya Defence Forces. They have been able to at least recapture and rehabilitate 9 institutions that costed the government close to 200 million shillings, with the president vowing that more funds will be taken there as well to rehabilitate more schools. Over 40 schools were at least in disturbed areas, with the president clearly stating under the Operation Maliza Uhalifu, it has enabled that particular operation to ensure that those schools are recaptured. You do know that students in that particular area were not going to school due to banditry and other criminal elements that are in that particular region. The president has also underscored that the security operation has ensured at least 80% of critical installations, not just schools, but critical areas and town centers as well have been secured in the operation, and the remaining 20%, they will ensure that it has been dealt with. Also, the president in this particular tour has, of course, taken a swipe at some of the government critics, talking about him not coming to this particular region. Yesterday, he expounded why he did not arrive here in the Mount Kenya region for at least 6 months, aside from what the Gen Z uprising, also in terms of the finance bill itself. Also, we're talking about other issues that emanated from that particular visit following the impeachment of none other than the former deputy president, that is Rigathi Gachagua, which he expounded yesterday in an interview over 1 hour and 30 minutes. Also, the president will be focusing to ensure that some of the key projects that are being under the government, especially the affordable housing project, which has clearly stated that it has employed many youths in this particular area, will be, of course, be given prominence. Aside from the Nanyuki DEB coming here and the Nanyuki modern market, he will be visiting the affordable housing project here in Nanyuki as well to see the progress. You do know this has been the main program that the government has been running through the Ministry of Lands and Housing, especially from CS Alice Wahome and Charles Hinga, who is the Principal Secretary for Housing, who have been steering this particular ship of the affordable housing project. Also, the president, we got a glimpse into the finance bill that will be coming before Parliament, the 2025-2026, some of the key areas the government will be also focusing on, with the president clearly stating that the repackaging of tea materials as well as coffee taxes will be reduced on that particular arena, so that it can ensure that tea and coffee products that reach the consumer, me and you, at the end of the day, it is at an affordable price. Also, the president underscored how agriculture resuscitated the economy. He clearly stated that once they took over power 2.5 years ago, there was an inflation in the country about 9%. Currently, it has reduced. So the president clearly stating that even the government reserve has adequate funds in terms of money for the government operation. Also, they are looking to other areas that they can see where the revenues can come from through the various finance bill that will be presented. Also, the president is touring this particular region with a number of leaders, including cabinet secretaries, the cabinet secretary, even the education, where I'm out right now in Nanyuki DEB, cabinet secretary for education, that is Julius Migoso Gamba, is already here. Also, the government spokesperson, Dr. Isaac Mwaura, is also also here. The president will be joined also by the deputy president, who have been touring also in Laikipia West, Kimani Ichung'wah, the majority leader of the National Assembly, including the governor of Laikipia County, touring, and a host of leaders from this particular area. So keeping tabs on this particular region, and as at when it unfolds, Troy will be coming to with any details. So we have mounted here at the Nanyuki DEB as well as in the Nanyuki Modern Market. As I told you earlier on, the government has allocated to the tunes of millions and billions in the constructions of a modern market in not just in Mount Kenya region, but across the country. But in Mount Kenya specifically, 87 modern markets will be built in this particular area. He has just finished his tour in Rumuruti, Laikipia West, around that particular area. He will be coming here. He has just launched a comprehensive school in that particular area that was recovered or rehabilitated after the damage that was caused by bandits in this particular area once they were raining in this particular area. But we'll be keeping tabs on this particular trips that the president will be making here, especially as and when he finishes in Nanyuki. He'll be heading back to Kieni and Narumoru in Nyeri County to just continue with the launch of some of the project and some of the laying of the stone. So for now, back to you, Troy. As and when the president clearly starts the event, we'll be coming to you live. So back to you, Troy.
Thank you, Abdiaziz Hashim, live from the Nanyuki DEB school, where they are expecting the president any moment from now in his development tour of the county, after which he is expected to go back to Kieni, that is in Nyeri County. He's talked about a number of things that we are expecting, especially where he is currently. The Nanyuki Modern Market will also be launched. Just like the president said, 87 markets in the Mount Kenya region will also be commissioned, including the Mau Mau Road will continue, that had already started, will continue to be constructed. That and much, much more. As soon as the head of state gets there, we will be crossing over to link up with him and Abdiaziz for the latest. You're watching KBC News Check. Many thanks indeed for keeping us company. And in studio, I also have Oscar Omondi, a political analyst and also University Don. Just next to him, we have Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan. And of course, as I mentioned, we were expecting also Council Nyeribo and Dr. Saoke, but we are still continuing with the conversation where we are looking at that trip. Let's look at the political aspect of this trip. And as you have read, even in the papers today, is that some of the MPs, some of the senators, will not join the president. And remember, as we said, in as much as the president is politician, he is a symbol of national unity. He should tour every places. Development shouldn't be skewed. And he has mentioned and said competitors or even opponents should spell out their development agenda, adding that no one will be left behind. I want us to look at the unity.
As I told you, that public opinion does not necessarily measure the voter behavior, which is measured after every 5 years. Secondly, when it comes to coalition building, voters don't really look into policy issues. When the government is considered as a coalition, party identities are strongly, and other identities like religion identity, ethnic identity, carry the day as opposed to policy issues. You know, when a party is not in any coalition, then that party ideologies, the ideological position, or be it social democracy, or be it a party like, for example, if you go to America, the Republican, which is right-wing party, for example, and there is MAGA, Make America Great Again, for example, that's a rallying call. But when we have coalitions, for example, what president might end up doing in Central is to build a new crop of leadership who are going to be part of this coalition. So it's going to give competition to the people who oppose him in Central Kenya. And I told you, for example, for him to get, for example, the Luo Nyanza, where I come from, I mean, you know very well that ODM is the main political movement that is there. And now people might only support President William Ruto because it is a coalition. Number two, for example, again, everywhere that you have, so long as the party is in that coalition, probably, mostly, the policy does not carry the day. You know very well that some of the things that have been, what you talked about, the cost of living crisis. And when the president was asked about this one yesterday, he really tried to justify that we inherited no money. We got into government and promised people free things, free things, free things. When you got into government, you discovered that government was in debt. And one thing that he said, which was so crucial, was that you don't want to go to be in a country that defaults. If you become a loan defaulter, international loan defaulter, then you become a pariah failed state, for example, because nobody wants to deal with you. And he tried to justify that I really tried with the system that we make sure we don't default on any loan, and we don't default any loan. And now our international foreign reserve is in shape, and we're able to pay our loans, and we're able to go ahead and start doing new developments. And now many contractors who have been suffering from pending bills, for example, roads, wherever, are able to be paid because the economy is getting better and better. And that is why I've told you that whatever was happening in June 25th, during the finance bill, on June 25th, 2024, the position that, the emotion that were being driven, that drove the young people to go and occupy parliament, does not have the same position again. You know very well that some of the people who are also opposed to President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza policies are, for example, people who get finance from payslips, people who are in employment because of over-taxation, because the payslip has been held so much. What about if towards the election, he releases some of these things, say that, okay, we were doing affordable housing and they're now finished, so remove it from the payslip, for example. You know, some of these decisions, although I've told you, if it is a coalition, mostly it is never policy driven. It doesn't strongly reflect what influences a Kenyan voter or what influences any voter. I did a research about, and my question of research was what influences a Kenyan voter, and my findings were two. The keen, your keen, right? Yeah. And money. These two things influences Kenyan voters so much. Keen, I mean, is never totally ethnicity. If you go to his place, everybody would be Somali. But even within the Somali communities, they are clanism. So it's about kin, it's about my kin. If you go to Siaya, for example, everybody is Luo. So it's not about ethnic, because when they elect their governor, everybody from that place, the majority of them are from the Luo community. But again, there is the clanism that influences whom they vote for to become, for example, the local governor there. So it is kin and money. And this one will still influence the election in 2027. We can never leave them. So the rhetoric that we do, things are changing and emotions are dying off. When the emotions die off, and now I told you this guy is a political orator, and coalitions that they will be built. Number three, in our research again, I've done research about how what governs Kenya. For the last 5 elections, the coalitions that have won or have been able to take over the governing of the country have been built 3 to 2 months to the general election. NAC was put together 3 months to the election. Jubilee between Uhuru and, in 2013, Uhuru and Ruto, they built Jubilee, URP and TNA came like 3 months to the election. Yeah. In 2022, for example, Kenya Kwanza, the coalition where Mudavadi and Wetangula and all these people come and build the Kenya Kwanza coalition, this is 3 months to the election. So the coalition that will win this election, because of what has happened for the last 5 elections, is a coalition that will be concocted 3 or 4 months to the general election. And in that coalition, policy issues does not really drive. Emotions are used, and party identities are also used, because people just vote because my party is part of that coalition. Yes.
And Doc, just speaking from where Omondi has left, in as much as this is a development tour, is also a political tour, because it's actually meeting also leaders. And looking at a region where after impeaching his deputy, after the impeachment of his deputy, that is Rigathi Gachagua or Rigiji, that we have seen they have talked about forming a political party from the region. They've talked about aligning themselves with other like-minded minds so that they send the president home. How does the president now, because he is going to meet a lot of grassroots leaders, and some, as we speak, they don't want anything to do with Kenya Kwanza. How can he maybe quell these fears and endear to grassroots leaders? Because he really needs this.
Ben, there are three layers of politics that people are playing. One is the local politics, the one we often use to misuse the voters. And that is played largely based on clanism. Number two, you will find the politics of superiority. Who is superior and who is the kingmaker or who is influencer. So the politics of influencer is played by people who are self-centered, people who wants to be recognized as the key key aspect of movers and crowd movers and this, people who decide on whether they can influence the whole population against an individual, regardless of whether that individual has good things for them or not. And the third one is the politics of tomorrow. The politics of tomorrow is largely influenced by how we behave today. And most politicians, I think we need to understand what a politician's game card is. The game card of a politician is to look for an opportunity to score in order for the voters to have an upper hand in terms of their likes. So once they feel like you are actually on their side, you'll always have won the heart of your voters. So, as he mentioned, in the mountain, there are two sets of people. One, people who wants to shape their political career now with the government of the day. And definitely they are going to shape it because they are getting backup from the government of the day and they will be always present there. There are those who think they had established themselves and they can maneuver the government of the day and make a decision on who talks to their people or not. These are the people who are largely losers when it comes to development. So, for example, I'll give you just an example of our Mandera County. It's good to understand what happens and when you can avoid not to mix with the national government. For example, for me as a politician from Mandera West, from Mandera County, precisely from Mandera West, the county government of Mandera from 2013 to date had utilized or got resources over 180 billion. And today, the difference between before the 2010 constitution and now is just creating a bag of thieves who have empowered themselves in looting government or county resources. They have not shown any significant impact in regards to the amount of money they have received. So those ones I do not want to be associated with. But when the president visited there, we had a common factor, all of us. We wanted the president to give us a significant development plan so that we benefit from him. So we lost hope in the county agenda, but now our hope was was realized in the national government. That way means then the people who echo for the national government's agenda will always benefit, because regardless of whether you are at the national government or you are the county government, everybody serves the same people. There are no people called, these ones are categorized for the national government and these ones are categorized for the county government. It's all about who has a bigger pocket and who has a bigger agenda for the people that we represent or the people we think will be voting for us. So in the mountain, I think the president has already played his game very well. The card he has played is so superior to the ones now the opponent he mentioned are playing. Why? He has already established a system. For example, my friend, former CS, public service, was removed from the office, Honorable Muturi. But strategically, they picked the only candidate or the only member of parliament representing his party, because he's a party leader for that particular party. So his party leader was removed. He was given the CS position. That is politics. That is not actually the fact that Roku became beneficiary, which we are happy for him, because Roku has been a very good friend that I have known him for almost 10, 15 years. It's not someone I have learned today. And he's going to perform, because you have seen what he does in the county when he represented Mbere North in the National Assembly. And therefore, I think the game that the president is playing, for example, Rigiji was removed. My friend Professor Kithure Kindiki was put, and he comes from the mountain as a deputy president. Therefore, the game that he's playing is so superior to the games that these other opponents wants to play. And I don't think by the end of 2027, or rather by the end of his term, and we are getting into the elections for 2027, the mountain must have shaped, and we have a set of leaders who will be drumming for the Kenya Kwanza, and we will have a set of losers who will be drumming for their failure.
Okay, and on that note, let's first of all cross over to where there is happening is the change of ministries, actually. Aidan Duale picking up the health docket and Mulongo picking up the environment. Let's listen in.
County to a level 6 healthcare facility. While taking care of long-term progress in our healthcare agenda has been a key preoccupation, we have been vigilant in ensuring that disease outbreaks that could compromise our efforts to keep Kenyans safe are in close check. Such outbreaks are Mpox, cholera, Marburg, Ebola from neighboring countries that have had our medical experts on high alert 24/7. Regarding continued funding of our programs in the wake of withdrawal of USAID support, we have considered alternative ways of keeping our healthcare system well-oiled to continue serving our people. The future can only get better. So, welcome to the Health Ministry, our brother Adan Duale, and thank you and God bless you.
The Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, my sister Deborah Baraza, who is the outgoing Minister of Health, Principal Secretary Public Health and Professional Standards, Mary Mudhoni, Principal Secretary Medical Service, Harry Kimtai, holding on until Dr. Oluga is vetted by Parliament and if approves as the nominee of the President, will be our new Principal Secretary for Medical Service, the Director General for Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth, all the staff of the Ministry of Health present here today, members of the Fourth Estate, members of the public, good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and happy new month. It's a new month and a brand new opportunity to do things differently, to do them better, and to do them bold. Today, 1st April 2025, and my statement is not April's Fool's Day, it's a real statement. It marks exactly 6 months since Taifa Care was launched on 1st of October 2024. A bold step towards universal health care. It remains one of our most consequential programs in our nation's history, driven by the belief that no Kenyan should suffer or die because they cannot afford quality health care. This morning, I stand before you, humbled by the honor of being entrusted with the leadership of the Ministry of Health by none other than the President. I do not take this lightly, especially at a time when our health system stands at a critical crossroad. 6 months into the rollout of the Taifa Care, there is a growing scrutiny, and rightfully so. Let me begin with this assurance. The health of the Kenyan people is not negotiable. Every man, every woman, and every child in this country deserves access to world-class health care, which puts the patient at the heart of the system. Affordable, quality, and dignified, regardless of who you are and where you live. This is not a government promise. It is a constitutional right, and it's our moral responsibility. Acknowledging the progress, I wish to commend the tremendous work that has been done by the ministry under the leadership of Dr. Baraza. If I give you the status update, and let me start with the health financing and the social health care, social health insurance coverage. Every year in our country, since independence, Kenyans face severe economic hardship to out-of-pocket payments at the point of care, pushing many into extreme poverty. To address this, the Ministry of Health reformed the National Health Insurance Fund through the establishment of the Social Health Authority that rolled out Taifa Care on October 1st, 2024, with the aim of reducing serious catastrophic health expenditure. Currently, close to 21 million, and to be specific, 20,885,000 Kenyans have so far registered with SHA, along with 5.7 million of their dependents. And I want to thank the 5 counties which are leading in the registration. And I want others to follow. The county of Mombasa is number 1, the county of Bomet, the county of Nyeri, the county of Elgeyo Marakwet, and the county of Kirinyaga. We need to clap for those 5 counties. As of March 2025, a total of 25.4 billion have been paid by the Social Health Authority to all embedded and contracted health facilities as follows. Payments out of the Social Health Insurance Fund stood at 22.2 billion, and payment out for Primary Health Care Fund stood at 3.2 billion. I call upon all entities and individuals willing to support the less privileged to support them through SHA sponsorship portal. SHA is available for guidance. SHA will work, and SHA will transform the healthcare system in our country. On human resource for our health, the ministry recognizes the critical role of our health workers in the delivery of the universal health coverage, including our brothers who are enjoying their constitutional right of freedom of assembly. The Ministry of Health recognizes their big role. We are working tirelessly to finalize negotiations on the collective bargaining agreement with the respective unions. Further, we now have 107,831 community health promoters equipped with 100,000 kits, machines, and supplies. The ministry has provided 100,000 smartphones to the community health promoters for use through electronic community health information system, enabling improved household service delivery. Health products and technologies. As part of the universal health coverage, the Ministry of Health will embark on governance and finance reforms, which is already going on at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, to improve the availability of health products and technologies, in bracket known as the health commodities. The current order fill rate at KEMSA stands at 43%. This is due to the fact that KEMSA is facing stock outs due to lack of finances, and to improve that and give it more health products and technologies available, the government, through the supplementary budget, has already availed 1.5 billion, and we expect KEMSA to reach at a stage of 99% where all products are available. On the comprehensive integrated health information management system, the establishment of a comprehensive integrated health information management system, which is the core framework for provision of digital health service, with the following key achievements made so far. The digital health
has been the new health CS Aidan Duale there, outlining what the government has been able to do in the last couple of months, and actually what is currently underway is during this handover ceremony that is live from Afia House, where he is swapping cabinet portfolios with the former health CS Deborah Mulongo. We'll be getting much in regards to that, but I would like you guys to weigh in on that, because I've just noticed that he's been office for the last what, like 10 minutes as a health CS, and whatever he's been able to outline, it would have been better if the health CS Deborah Barras, the former Deborah Mlongo.
No, I think Njue, sometimes, you know, when things go out of hand, you expect you know, things which are not in procedural. Aidan Duale, when he's reading the speech that was meant for the exiting CS, means then, I mean, there was a bit of challenge in that process of handing over. So ideally, the speech would have been read by the current, the outgoing CS, so that he has a benchmark on where to begin. And then he gives us an update in 6 months or a year later, based on what different things he has done. But if he wants to ride on somebody else's achievement, which is not even confirmed, because as a new CS, you need to confirm issues that are being handed over once you assume the office. Therefore, I think something is not adding up, but we may not know what has happened in the boardroom. But the bottom line is that the speech he's reading belongs to the outgoing CS, and we assume that is how it's supposed to be.
Omondi, I think actually I feel if at all, if that is what they have agreed upon, then it's also better for the new environment CS Deborah to also tell us what has been happening in the environment. But
but you agree with me that the government of Kenya Kwanza is under pressure from the public to deliver. For example, somebody was asking me that these things happened during Kibaki. I told you, Kibaki, during his time, he didn't have to respond to critics from social media. The government of today, the opposition that we have, is not in parliament that we used to have traditionally. Things have changed. The opposition might not even be the fourth estate, the media houses, for example. The social media has been a major putting government in check. So there's a lot of pressure. You can see whatever, if you could see what Rebecca was reading, and again what Aidan Duale is reading. You can just see the body language, that there's pressure even in the handing over. You know very well the turnover of cabinet secretaries in the Kenya Kwanza for the last 2 years has also been too much. For example, Duale, for example, the ministry of where Ruku has gone. You know, we've had around 5 cabinet secretaries there. We had Moses Kuria, then we had Aisha Jumwa, then we had Justin Muturi, and now we have Ruku. This is 2 years. And now Minister of Health also, we've had Nakumicha, then we had Rebecca for 5 months, then we had now Duale. That means that President William Ruto and his cabinet is trying to fix something. For example, the SHA thing that has not been, has had a bad opinion in the public realm, as much as now you're trying to bring probably somebody who is not really close to health, but is seen as a fixman that can fix this one. Yeah, I know he comes with a lot of power and like, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. And that is why I think he's reading this one. He wants to prove that I can do it. I think he has also already set up some fund. I saw it on Twitter today. He said that he's already set up the NHIF pending bills fund to address that one. So he believes in it, but the problem is that in cabinet, in these departments, there are technocrats who work. The guy who is going to work to run the Ministry of Health is Dr. Oluga, who is the PS alongside Director Patrick Kamoth. So I don't know if the physique will be, the political system might interfere, and this one, I'm afraid it might not work for health.
Yeah. All right, and still on the same, let's go back to the president's visit and look at the economic grievances that the Kenyans have already, on numerous cases, pointed out. We're talking about health. There are challenges in health. We are looking at education. There are challenges in education. We are looking at the high cost of living. Today we didn't hear the president mention anything in regards to that, but we are hoping that he's going to do that. And partly why the high economic turmoil that we are experiencing is because of the layers of taxes that we have. All the taxes have gone up. NSSF, SHIF, looking at housing levy. How does, and given that when it comes to tax issues, Kenyans have not quite grasped exactly what the government wants to, or intends to do, how can he credibly address these challenges? Because at the end of the day, every Kenyan is being touched by their high economic.
Yeah, I mean, if we've had serious loans that and did a lot of infrastructure development from the roads, from the expressway and all this, which is a lot of money, which has made government which has made government to spend money, and now they are looking at funding all government projects through taxes, and that is why they put up taxes, and this is affecting the cost of living, and also has made the price of essential goods go up. But now we need a serious intervention to deal with this overtaxing. And now you see even the county government, some of them have even opted to do the same thing, to tax people, the individuals, and get to build the tax bracket. One thing that was supposed to be done, which has not been done and achieved probably, is to widen the tax bracket so that many people get into the tax bracket and reduce the number of taxes that we have. Because a section of government or people who are mostly payslip holders are paying so much taxes. Again, number two, even businesses are closing down. Because when KRA and all these things have been running down and closing businesses because of default and all this, I think this one needs whatever. I know that the time President Moi and the Kanu government had almost the same problem, and the World Bank insisted that for us to give you more money, you have to build a dream team, where we had Martin Oduor, Richard Leakey, and the rest to stabilize things. I think Mbadi and group at that place, but we're yet to see, the budgeting process. We're coming to June again. So the budgeting process is starting. We will get to know how they will organize this budget again, because we don't want to see another finance bill rejected. Otherwise, we can have another rejection. If we have another rejection, the contemporary government is not as stable as we may think, and things are boiling. If we move to a level where another second finance bill is rejected, then we are doomed. So they must be very careful while they're doing a new finance bill, while they're doing the budget, so that they ease the pay slip a bit, so that the people can get a breathing space, because at the end of the day, the cost of essential goods like unga and bread should actually come down for the local mwananchi, because this is what they use on daily basis. And people should get back to development. If government invests, government has to invest. And that is why we create jobs, because even the things that William Bruce talked about, jobs abroad, they cannot cushion. Because 200,000 people, we are a state of almost 60 million. So if you send 200,000 people to work abroad, the impact of this is like almost zero. It's like a ton in an ocean. So I think there must be a radical move to make sure that we reduce the cost of living and make sure that essential goods have a better price so that people can be able to have a breathing space. Otherwise, the biggest problem in the country where people are facing is the high cost of living, and that is the mamas. So no matter how politics you might play, at the end of the day, if people cannot get the daily bread, then...
Doc, I would like you also to weigh in on that, because at the end of the day, the high cost of living is affecting each and every one living in the country. How does the president reconcile this? Because at the end of the day, we are also looking at a finance bill, we are also looking at a budget, and from the last statements that we had in Parliament, it's going to hit the 4 trillion mark. 4.2 actually trillion mark. And if that happens, then it shows that Kenyans more or less might have to endure a new layer of taxes.
Yeah, I think before I get into that, there's one question you asked. Every time we discuss health issues, and the challenge of health has become a point of discussion in every political conversation. And the reason as to why we think there's something which is not right is because we devolved health to the county government. And that was a wrong move that we did, because health is a critical service, and critical services usually require critical strategy. You do not need to just slide in and move it to a county who do not understand the essence of health services as a critical things. For example, we have echoed it several times. For us to end the menace of health crisis in this country, we must establish a commission like that of Public Teacher Service Commission that will go into manage the human capital of the health sector. That way we are able to at least do justice for Kenyans who largely benefit from the health services that are provided at the county level. So having put that aside, I think the government must come up with some strategies to make sure that we don't cripple our health systems within the counties. And that's why we have a lot of crises. But when we come to issues of cost of living, first of all, I think it is good to appreciate that we do not have cash circulation in the country. That itself causes rise in cost of living, cash at hand, because people employ even daily workers based on cash flow. If there are no cash, nobody will go into employ you. And therefore, the vicious circle where you employ, they feed their other dependents, and they are able to continue with the day-to-day life becomes an issue. But the government has a very massive expenditure, which sometimes back we were told, there will be a contingency plan that will be put in place to reduce government expenditure. But I think after broad-based government, we might have forgotten that again, because we are seeing quite a number of expenditures that are being used.
We have 7 new state departments.
Expansion of the government.
And those come with resources
exactly.
as well.
Government expenditure, government wage bill being bolted still. Number 2, look at the concept of introducing expenditures that are being utilized for purposes of movement, travels. You have seen the government said they will going to reduce those expenditures. But now what we are trying to see is that in the recent Auditor General's report, the number of travels that have been made globally, and that one has been made within the country, are so massive to the extent that that amount of money can actually cater for our health systems that is crippling now. Therefore, there are a number of things that people have forgotten. But again,
how does the president, because I'm looking at the president now, you're going to get the microphone each and every stop that he makes. And I'm quite sure Kenyans would want to know, and especially from the Mlima, want to know exactly how is the cost of living going to come down? Because everyone is being affected by that.
Absolutely.
So how can he quell these fears that life is a bit is about to get even harder? Because we are looking at 4.2 trillion.
I think he has mentioned a few things.
Yes.
One, that the cost of, fertilizers that he has always been talking about. And of course, the nature has favored us. Rains are always there for the past 2 years continuously. And therefore, that means then Kenyans have something to eat. I mean, when you are farming, you may not need a lot of things once the cost of fertilizers is subsidized. But I think the president needs to come out and tell Kenyans that we may want to increase the taxation, and the reason as to why we want to do is because there are critical services that are crippling and we need to cover those ones. If that is not what he's trying to say now, and we see the executive which is preparing the budget now lands at the parliament, and we are able to get now a snapshot of that budget for 2024, 2025, 2026, then again another outcry is likely to happen. Therefore, if we expand our budget for 2025, 2026, then we must also be informed where that money is coming from. And that definitely the money comes from taxation. Nowhere else. Kenya government do not do business. And therefore, I tend to think the president needs to preempt the coming process so that he doesn't have that crisis that we had in 2024,
Doc has said, as you
2025.
add that, is making a lot of sense in regards to what the president has said in terms of the fertilizer. But more or less people like pastoralists, they don't benefit from this fertilizer. People in Mandera, Wafugaji,
we benefited, Joy, we benefited from vaccination. So
vaccination, okay, I'll give you a minute each so that we may wrap up this conversation.
I think basically there are radical decisions that have to be made. For example, in terms of expenditure. For example, when the president is in central Kenya, for example, as is now, people are asking for Mau Mau Road, the roads and what have you. This big infrastructure.
The Coffee Cherry Fund.
Yes. This big infrastructure that we've done has brought us to where we are, because there are also a lot of corruption within them. I think the express road, for example, it was too huge investment. It's a good thing, but were we ready for it? But now we have to pay for it. Number two, you know very well that the president has told us most of the time that we need to do a debt audit. It is difficult to pay for loans that you don't even know how much they cost. There are things that we need austerity measures, which I've always discussed here before. Do you know, for example, doing a Jamhuri Day or an Independence Day, like this time is going to be done in Homa Bay, it can cost the government around 200 million. And the president also, when he goes out, like for example, is going on the trips to Mount Kenya, the budget that accompanies the president's tour to the mountain, for example, for this month, these are things that we should be able to be discussing. When you host the minister in charge of treasury, for example, ask like how much does State House or wherever office of the president spend on a trip to Western Kenya for 5 days. We should be able to audit that. And do we really need to have that type of, yes, it is politics and what have you, but do we really need to have that type of budget to, because, these SU vehicles, and we have all this government machinery going to this place for 5 days, or wherever he was in the tour in Nairobi for like 6 days. The much that those tours cost the taxpayer sometimes can be too expensive.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Doc, can I give you 30 seconds to wrap up?
Mine is to say that Mount Kenya should benefit from the president's visit, and they should question the president on what good things or development he is bringing for them. And I think for the presidency, they should tell us what plans they have for us in the coming budget and how they will intend to fund it.
My last question is, what will happen if Mount Kenya rejects President Ruto advances? Because he might be rejected at some level.
Can I say we'll cross those bridges when we get there? He has like almost 10 stops that he's going to make in the next 5 days. Let's wait and see. But that has been Oscar Omondi, who is a political analyst and also a university. Just next to him, we have Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is a political and governance expert as well. We have been looking at the president's tour of the 9 counties of the Mount Kenya region. The last time we spoke with Abdi Aziz, he was in Laikipia. Later on, he will be in Kieni, in Nyeri. We are expecting a lot. Politics and also development as well. That's why we put a cap on KBC News Check. My name is Njue, and Byron Aboli is our sign language interpreter for this broadcast. I'm now leaving you in the capable hands of the Swahili desk, Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini. But before then, let's first of all hear 1 or 2 at the IEBC interviews at the Kenya College of Insurance. Many thanks indeed for joining us.
Angela, I've heard you talk about communication. Now, corporate image of any institution is very, very important. And it brings out the perception that people have. And I think from the time we started this interview, the issue of public perception of IEBC as a corporate entity has come out very strongly. So using your communication skills as Angela, how would you use those skills to help in terms of improving the perception of the public with regard to IEBC, and more importantly, building on the corporate image of IEBC? Noting that some time back there were some commissioners who were complaining that they were assigned some peripheral roles, hospitality roles, and they were not engaged in the mainstream electoral process. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask you to just repeat the last bit? I didn't get you quite clearly. Sorry about that.
Okay, you can start with the first one.
Okay, about the corporate image of the IEBC. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, as a communications expert, you know the corporate image of an organization speaks a lot about that organization. Yeah, and it all starts with how we present ourselves as a commission. Do we speak? Yes, because do we listen to each other? Do we speak at each other, or do we speak with each other? So we need to have harmony in the way we do. Even though we know that we're supposed to be independent in the way we think and do our things, but we need to collaborate in the way we do things within the commission. So are we in harmony in whatever we are doing? If we speak not in one voice, then that speaks a lot about us. But again, what I want to talk about is the branding. How do we brand?
We do as commissioner. Be specific in your action points.
Okay, my action points includes basically, as a communications expert, opening up dialogue within the commission. Yeah, there is the need to open up dialogue and encourage my fellow commissioners to be able to listen to each other, because those are basically, I'll be teaching them, or rather taking them through, because I know the commissioners, everybody, I come in with communication skills. Helping my fellow commissioners to be able to understand the communication, listening, dialogue, and bringing them on board and sharing them with them. So I'll be able to support the team in terms of understanding how do we listen to each other, communicate with each other, not at each other, and how do we speak, how do we work as a team? Yeah, we need to be team players, because I myself am a team player. But at the same time, also it talks about the corporate image, also talks about do we have branding guidelines within, do we have policies that guide our branding guidelines? Because that also informs the corporate image of the IEBC. So if we have branding guidelines, our commission, then we are good to go. But if we don't have the branding guidelines, then it will be also thing that I will be bringing on board, or if they exist, I will be improving on them, supporting the improvement of the branding guidelines. But at the same time, we also just need to know, because it is IEBC and its corporate image, basically how do we talk to the media? There's also a language of how we need to talk to the media. Yeah, you just not every time you talking to the media. There's a way we need to train ourselves on how to even speak to the camera. Yeah, so that we're going to be able to maintain the IEBC. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I wish you well. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. I request Evans Misati to ask you some questions. Evans, please.
Thanks so much, Chair. Angela, I also wanted to ask you a question, given that now in our endeavor to understand your suitability for this position of the
Pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa ya kutangamana na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji ulobobea katika habari,
nĩ ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
nĩ harĩa tũkoragwo tũkĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hot,
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma. Jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufana katika 99.5 FM. Shoro FM.
Tasty breakfast just for you. Enjoy.
How special is this Dan of yours?
Niaje maze, nilijua kuna something fishy na hapa.
Nini na mimi sijui?
Nikupin. Hizi mapepa zote, kanairo yote.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nilikuwa chei kazi ukaanza kuichezea.
Can we talk privately? What's wrong?
Somebody's dead.
I know, people die.
Jua hii damu itakuwa kwa mikono yetu.
Wacha waende wamtupe huko kwa bahari.
Morning, madam.
Biblia inasema an eye for an eye. Hakuna mtu atajua amekufa.
Who is dead?